Knopf Glibber, hi friends, Darth Momo here for a final Resistance-related review. So, this isn't necessarily more of a kind of episodic review or my thoughts on it, but this is just my thoughts on, Star Wars Resistance overall, and since I sat through every episode, was it worth it? Here's my answer. Was Star Wars Resistance worth it? Very hesitantly, I'll say yes. Was it worth it on a week-to-week basis? Only because I didn't really do too much. So my Sundays were generally free. It wasn't too much of a burden. But if I had a busy life, no. It would very much be worth just, when it's all done and over, sit and binge it. It's 2 seasons. It's 50 episodes. The show is 50 episodes. If I really wanted to, I could watch that. I could do it in all day. But, like a normal person, it'd be a weekend. But yeah, if I had, a much busier life around the time that it was airing, or even if my Sundays were just super busy, I probably would have just waited until it was done and binged it. Or waited, till each season was done. But I mean, this is just the reasons why. Because it's like, I've gone through and I recently rewatched all the Clone Wars. And that was amazing. And I'll do a separate video on that. But then, after Clone Wars finishes in Season 7, I'm going to go rewatch Rebels, and I'm looking forward to that. I don't really have any intentions to rewatch this show. I mean, maybe if I was showing it to someone, but it's like, if you think about it, like Rebels and Clone Wars, I've seen so many of those episodes so many times. Resistance, if you exclude the time I tried to show it to a couple of my old friends, I literally watched only one episode of this a second time. One episode. The Season 1 finale. And I may watch the Season 2 finale again. I literally bought the show on DVD. And generally I have a policy when my DVDs, when I buy it, I need to watch it, whether I've seen it again or not. Don't just buy the DVDs for it to sit there. I bought Resistance Season 1 on DVD when it came out back in August. I haven't sat down and watched it since. I watched a little 5-minute documentary on the DVD, but that was it. I haven't sat down and rewatched the episodes. I only recommend it to someone because it's still kind of part of the, the Star Wars mythos, and it gives a little bit of insight into the sequel trilogy. But overall, I think it suffers from a lack of connectivity. Clone Wars and Rebels had a way of working their stories where it almost feels essential to watch those as part of the overall Star Wars experience. But I think the shows in the sequel trilogy era, like The Mandalorian and the Resistance, have yet to really do that. Rebels, while Clone Wars focuses on characters from the movies. Anakin and Obi-Wan are 2 of the 3 main characters in that show. Rebels, while it definitely focuses on, its main characters are not from the movies, it interweaves characters from the films so many times. In Season 1, you're getting Tarkin and Lando and Vader and the droids. Season 2, you're getting Leia. You're getting more Vader. You're getting, characters from the Clone Wars. You're getting Rex. You're getting all these, Imperial people. All these people, and then in Season 4, you get, Saw Gerrera. You get Mon Mothma. You get all this connectivity. Bail Organa, Obi-Wan, Yoda. You don't really get that in Resistance. The only character, there isn't a single character from the films, with the exception of BB-8 for the first half of the season, that actually play a major part in this show. General Hux is in 3 episodes, and 2 of them are quick cameos. Kylo Ren has a couple cameos in the finale of the show. Captain Phasma's in a couple episodes, and Poe's in 5-6 episodes. That's really it. That's the extent of it. Leia's in a couple quick episodes. That's it. There's no real main film connectivity. If having seen Clone Wars and Rebels, I honestly feel like if I hadn't seen those, I'd be missing out on quite a bit. I don't feel that with Resistance at all. I think it also suffers from a lack of, I think it suffers from kiddiness, a lack of maturity. I think the show is so over-the-top kiddie. Rebels has some kiddie moments. That's true. Clone Wars also has some kiddie moments. The shows both grow up, and they also tend to try and move past it. They don't actively focus on it. Resistance, half the show is just so kiddie. There's so many episodes devoted to kiddie things. I'm not saying it like I hated watching it, but there were several moments where I rolled my eyes. Several moments where it's like, okay, I'm just done with this. Resistance really feels like the first major step into, oh, we're creating the Marvel Saturday morning cartoons for kids. That's really it. That's what I think of it. I think also part of that is it's super short. It didn't get so much time to mature. It matured a little in its second season, but it didn't get the time that Rebels and Clone Wars got to really mature. If each show just got the first 2 seasons, I would actually say Rebels maybe got the most mature, but none of them get really super mature. And Resistance I think that's one reason why it suffers and why it's so overall kiddies, because it's so short. I think it also has a lack of an overall story. It's a very basic story of like familiarity. Rebels and Clone Wars were doing a lot of interesting things. Clone Wars did so many interesting things. Rebels does some too. The most interesting thing that this show did was what it did with Tam, where it made her join the First Order. And again, I'm not knocking that. That was a very interesting choice, and I was glad they did that. But at the same time, that's the most interesting choice. It retreads a lot of similar ground. Civilians getting involved, following a cell, a resistance cell. This is a lot of stuff that was treaded on in Rebels. However, the thing is, Rebels was doing it for the first time, and Rebels was doing it with the story we all grew up as, where the original trilogy was the essential, like, this is the fight of a lifetime. You have to get involved. And Resistance, same with the sequels, it feels like we're just retreading this old ground. Going through the same stories that we've been through thousands of times. We know it's literally, there was one episode where Doza finally goes, I'm done running from this fight. And I'm like, wait, how many people have had this same sentiment in Rogue One or Star Wars Rebels? We're probably going to get that more in the Cassian show, if that focuses heavily on the rebellion. And I also think the animation was just, like I said, that step into, we're making Saturday morning cartoons for, Marvel fans that are kids. I mean, it's one thing for, like, Rebels tried a different 3D animation, but it still feels like that 3D animation was it was a step up from the, the way, like, a lot of kids shows were. It wasn't just plain 2D animation. But then Resistance comes along and literally makes the most 2D, 3D animation possible. And it was, I mean, I've never been a fan of the look of the show. I've never been that. Rebels, it took me, because I was younger, it took me a little while to realize it was a different kind of animation style than the Clone Wars. It took me a couple episodes. But I was still okay with the Rebels style. There's a couple things where it's like, yeah, it looks a little weird, but mostly because I was so familiar with these elements in Clone Wars. Overall, I'm okay with the style of the show. I've never, the look of the Resistance show has never grown on me. And those are my thoughts on Resistance. Overall, was it worth it? Yes. Very hesitantly, I'll say yes. You ask me, Resistance is worth it just because it's short and it has some interesting stories, especially like when the First Order is really involved, and because it slightly adds to the mythos. I'd say yes. Once you've seen the Clone Wars and Rebels and The Mandalorian, the better shows, go on, binge Resistance. It's the last, main Star Wars show that's technically canon. It doesn't really add much to the sequels. It adds a little bit, but not a lot. It doesn't have so many compelling stories. It's very kiddie. Nothing special about the look of the show. It suffers from a lack of connectivity. It doesn't even connect to, Rebels connected to Clone Wars. This show doesn't even connect to either of the shows. It has small little references, but literally the other 3 main Star Wars shows we have, Clone Wars, Rebels, and Mandalorian, it doesn't have any main connectivity with either of them. It's very isolated from the sequel trilogy itself. We don't even see the Resistance characters again after, the middle of the first season. Those are just my thoughts on the show. So, in my honest opinion, if someone was to ask me, would you recommend seeing this? I would say, sit down, binge it. That's my thoughts. I honestly, unless I'm doing some canon rewatch or something, I don't really see myself sitting through watching this show again, just for fun. If I was doing it as part of a canon rewatch or I'm showing someone, I could see it. But no, I really have no plans to sit down and rewatch this show again. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for joining in. Darth Momo out, and I think this will be the last time we talk about Resistance. So, yeah, we'll do this for Clone Wars reviews again. Thank you guys always. May the Force be with you. Always. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video, comment down below and hit that like button. Oh, and check out some of my other videos. I'm sure you'll find them in the light.